Hello, people. You're welcome to ProUp Masterclass. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and today's class is going to be it's going to sound like a science class, but I want you to um, try to take some time to follow me. So don't tune off if I tend to be talking about something that is science related or chemistry related. Um, don't say, oh, I was never good at science, so I can't relate to this. Please just follow me. It's not in-depth science at all. It's very basic science. So, and I'm going to be leading to something. So don't get tuned off at all. The genesis of this class for me was an experience I had a couple of days ago, and I was watching TV, and I really enjoy watching all this court TV. So I watch Judge Judy from time to time, and on this day I was watching Judge Judy, and she had someone take a plaintiff take a defendant to court, and she asked them to introduce themselves, and she started with the plaintiff, and she asked him what he does. And I saw this young man trying to articulate what he did for a living. Um, but then it seemed a little bit abstract. It seemed very abstract. He found it hard to articulate it. And at the point, Judge Judy got bored with him and said, "No, okay, I don't understand." So she summarized it into something um, pretty ridiculous. So she said, "So all you do is share flyers." Because he was kind of taking too long to articulate what he did, and he said, "All you do is share flyers." And he didn't say anything. He said, "Okay, yeah, if you see it that way, yeah." And so she moved on to the defendant after giving him a ridiculous look. After giving the plaintiff a ridiculous look, she moved on to to the defendant, who was another young man who was dressed in a suit. Now, the plaintiff was dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, and the defendant was dressed in a suit. So she moved on to the defendant and said, "What do you do?" And also a young man, he was able to articulate what he did, and he was like, "We run an IT company, and we service, computers and stuff, and we work for this kind of companies and stuff like that. We service people in this area of the USA and stuff." And he was so articulate, like something you could read from a brochure. And she was very satisfied with that. And from that time of them introducing themselves, she, you know, it, it kind of seemed like she was swaying more towards the defendant than the plaintiff. Um, and it just seemed like the plaintiff was, to her, seemed irresponsible, and the defendant seemed more credible, like someone that was doing something with his life. And for some reason, that triggered me. That that particular episode triggered me, because I thought to myself, Tola, if you were ever to be on Judge Judy, which I never hope to be on, but if I ever on Judge Judy and you asked to articulate yourself, would you do any better than that plaintiff? And I was really honest with myself. I said it might really be hard for someone like Judge Judy to understand what I do as a job. And it's very easy. It will be very easy for her to look at me as irresponsible, and that made me feel a little bit self-conscious. You understand? It bothered me a lot that particular day. I don't usually get bothered by what I do, but then that day, that episode just made me feel like, maybe you should go out and get a real job. Maybe you actually should go out and get a real job, and stop this teaching and mentoring and recording of podcasts and sharing your thoughts. Maybe it's really, really hard to articulate that. Maybe you should get something you can really define as a professional job, and just tell them you're an engineer, you're an architect, you do this project, things that people can relate to. So it doesn't work against you in future like it works against this plaintiff. So I felt really insecure that day, and I had to pray. I said a little bit prayer, God, just encourage me. And in encouraging me, God brought something to light for me. He said, "Look, do you remember the pH scale? That thing you learnt in chemistry?" And I thought about it. I remember pH scale. pH scale. Yeah, it was kind of interesting for me. I was not an excellent chemistry student, but then I liked the topic when we were talking about the pH scale of any solvent. Now, a solvent is a liquid, so I won't use too many techniques. Solvent is a liquid, so and every liquid has a pH scale, and a pH scale measures whether something is an acid, whether it's more of an acid or a base. So there are two extremes to that scale. On one extreme are things called acids. On the other extremes are things called alkalines or bases. You understand? So there are two extremes. So along that scale, you can find out whether something is more acidic or more alkaline. And so um, there are a lot of solvents in this world, and an example of an acid mm, is um, um, sulfuric acid. You understand? Sulfuric acid. That's H2SO4. Sulfuric acid is the acid you normally find in batteries. You understand? It's in batteries. Look at car batteries. They have sulfuric acid in them. So everybody is used to acid. I think everybody has heard about acid before, but sulfuric acid is a very popular acid. There's hydrochloric acid, HCl. It's very common too. So those are acids. On the other end of the spectrum, there are things called alkalines, and alkalines are like um, sodium um, sodium hypochlorite. That's a very popular one. Sodium hypochlorite. Um, it's NaClO or ClO. NaClO. You understand? So sodium hypochlorite. It is everyday people will call it bleach. You understand? Bleach. So sodium hypochlorite is a bleach. You understand? So we all use bleaches when we are washing maybe bathrooms or things like that. So that's a classic example of an alkaline or a base that we use every single day. So we have a pH scale that measures the level of acidity or alkalinity of a particular solvent. Now, in life, there is a pH scale too. You understand, of alkaline or acid. You understand, there's a pH scale in life too, and that's how our effectiveness, our impact in life will be measured. Just like measuring a pH scale. And for the sake of this class, none is bad. You understand? Whether alkaline or base, in nature, none of them are bad. You understand? None is a bad substance. So when you're measuring, you're not measuring which is good and which is bad. You're just measuring the nature of a thing. But for the sake of this class, let's assume that alkaline is evil and acid is good. Let's assume alkaline, we don't want to be alkaline. Alkaline is evil. So alkaline is the evil end and acid is the good end. Now, if we assume that that alkaline is evil and acid is good, we'll realize that when you look at your life and what you are doing with your life, we are always advised not to be alkaline. You understand? Don't do anything of evil impact with your life. Don't be evil. You understand? Don't be evil. Don't be bad. So we all know that we shouldn't live our lives as fraudsters. Don't be a fraudster. Let that not be your career. So you can't go anywhere. You can't go to Judge Judy now and tell her you are a fraudster. That's terrible. You understand? You get, you implicate yourself. You understand? You get arrested for implicating yourself and telling someone that you can't tell any, no fraudster officially says they're a fraudster. It's a shameful thing. So don't be a fraudster. Um, don't be a murderer. Don't be a hired assassin. You understand? Don't be a thief. Don't be evil. You understand? Don't be evil. So we know not to be evil. Nobody aspires to be evil, at least openly. Don't be an alkaline. You understand? Don't be an alkaline. Don't be that. We know that. So school doesn't teach us to be a bank robber. School doesn't teach us to be a hired assassin. There's no school out there that you register to that has a course in being an assassin, a hired assassin. No, there isn't. Those things are very covert things. Nobody learns that openly. So we try to veer away from that. So you don't want to be an evil person. Now, the problem is that on our pay scale, we feel don't be an evil person, but be a professional, be a good person. And so we see a good person as a professional. So don't have evil impact, have good impact. And what we see a lot as good impact is what we go to school to study, what we become at the end of the day. Those things we can articulate. I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a banker, I am a nurse, all those things. I'm a singer, I'm a mechanic, I'm a plumber, you understand, whatever, I'm a carpenter. I'm not doing bad. I am doing good. So what we assume is that I am not alkaline, I am acid. You understand? So on the pH scale, a lot of us measure ourselves as being acid by virtue of not being alkaline. But that is not true. And this is what the Spirit kind of revealed to me that day when I watched Judge Judy. You see, there were two guys. One guy couldn't articulate what he was doing. The other one could articulate what he was doing. And he felt justified because he could articulate it as something good. And the truth of the matter is, society justifies him too as somebody that's having good impact. So society justifies, oh, I run an IT company where we deal with 50 clients every single month, and we have a retainer with about 20 of them and stuff, and we travel from state to state. We have branch offices here. That's acidity for people in the world. You understand? That acidity. That's doing something impactful with your life. That's impactful. You understand? But then they'll say at least he is not a thief. At least he's not a fraudster. At least he's not a mass killer. He's not a serial killer. You understand? He's not a bad person. He must be a good person. But then, what I want to have us know is that God doesn't measure our impact in life that way. In that way of saying, oh, he's not doing evil, so he's good. God doesn't measure our impact in life by how articulate we are in expressing what we do. He's not as easily impressed by our flowing, fluent, organized English or articulation of what we do like Judge Judy is. The truth of the matter is that you do not become acid simply by not being alkaline. And I'll say that again. You do not become acid simply by not being alkaline. Because on the pH scale, on the actual pH scale in chemistry, in between alkaline and acid is a zone called neutral. In between alkaline and acid is a zone called neutral. And in that zone called neutral, you have solvents like water. Water is a neutral solvent. Blood comes very close to it, but what water is a neutral solvent, neutral. And a lot of us in life, we are neutral, but we think we are acid. So we are not alkaline. We go on to become professionals. We can articulate what we are doing very well. It sounds very nice outside. You understand? It sounds very nice when you articulate it. It sounds like you are reading a brochure. It sounds very impressive. But in reality, spiritually, it's of neutral effect and neutral impact. It's like water. Now, water in reality is an incredible solvent. But when we look at it in this, in terms of impact on that scale, it's of little or no effect. So what I'm trying to say is that the real measure of your impact is what happens when you come in contact with a surface. That's the real measure of your impact. So when you look at a base like bleach, I use bleach a lot, especially when I'm cleaning around my house because I have dogs. So I try to clean up around the house a lot, and I use bleach a lot. And I have some t-shirts that have been totally ruined because when I was spraying bleach on surfaces, it got on the t-shirt. And immediately it gets on the t-shirt, it will begin to discolor it. The color begins to change. No matter how some of them are little spots, some of them are big spots, but then that color will never be the same again. You can't, it doesn't matter whether it dries off, you can wash it from now to tomorrow, it's never going to be the same. It is ruined. I was still wearing one of those t-shirts early this morning, and I kept on looking at this small spot. It's a red t-shirt, but it has yellow spots on it because that's come in contact with an alkaline. An alkaline touches a surface, and the surface will never forget that an alkaline touched it. Never. You understand? So let's take fabric as human life. You understand? When someone that is an alkaline comes in contact with that surface, you will never forget. When you go outside, people will know that you've been in contact with an alkaline. And that's why when you see people that have come in contact with fraudsters, they never forget their experience with fraudsters. Even if they had a fraudster defraud them of money 20 years ago, they will remember every detail 20 years after. Because it impacts your life so negatively that you never forget. If you've ever had thieves come to your house before, whether armed thieves or just thieves that break in when you are not at home, it never leaves you. Never. People that have been kidnapped before never ever forget that an alkaline has touched them. The impact is strong. Never forget. You understand? That's how impactful it is. It's like bleach on your clothes. Now, the same thing with acidity. If an acid were to drop on my clothes right now, it wouldn't just discolor it. It will burn through it. It will tear it. It will make a hole in it. A hole. You see, it's even more impactful than an alkaline. It will make a hole in it. It will tear it. That's how powerful it is. So there is no way I would forget that I came in contact with an acid. No way. No cloth that ever comes in contact with an acid is ever the same. People would know. You would know. You know, I once traveled on a plane before, and I was going for a wedding, for a friend's wedding. I was meant to be one of his groomsmen, and I put my my suit in like a jacket. So I went on board with it, and I had to put it in the overhead compartment. And when I got to my destination, took the suit, I realized that someone had carried an acid and the acid had burnt through the nylon covering that I put the jacket in, burnt through the jacket, burnt through my trousers, and went out. So it was a clean hole right through it. There was an acid. I couldn't wear that suit again. Never wore that suit again because it came in contact with an acid. You see, that's how our lives should be lived. That's how God measures our impact, is how unforgettable you are when you come across anyone. But a lot of us live in neutral zone. And I said water is a neutral solvent. So when water pours on your cloth, at best it gets wet. But 1 hour later, is it still wet? No. In fact, 30 minutes later, you cannot put your hand on the point that water poured on. You cannot remember that. So you cannot even remember the event of water. Sometimes you're not even conscious of the fact that water has poured on it. And that's how a lot of us live our lives. We are professionals. We are articulate. You understand? We are a solvent. We are not alkaline. We do no evil. But then we have little or no impact. At best, we wet. And a few minutes later, people forget that they ever came in contact with us. So there's nothing wrong with being a professional, but that's not what makes you an alkaline. There's nothing wrong with being able to articulate what you do, but that's not what makes you an acid. I'm correct myself there, because for this analogy, alkalines are bad, acids are good. Your being able to articulate your profession doesn't make you an acid. Doesn't mean you are doing something good with your life. You could be neutral. And that is the greatest danger. Being neutral and thinking you're an acid. Impressing people by saying you are not an alkaline, but deceiving yourself that you're an acid. People clapping for you as water, but immediately you walk out of that place, they can't remember what you do. That's where I'm going with this podcast. And that's how I got encouraged. That night, a lot of messages came rushing into my head from people that have listened to the podcast and telling me how it has changed their lives. I don't take those messages for granted, because I have very low times too. You understand? Very, very low times where I'm feeling, is it making any impact? I don't take those messages for granted. Those are my heroes. Those people that reach out to me out of the blue and they're just vulnerable, telling me about how their lives have been affected. I want to thank every single person that reaches out to me to just strengthen me to continue going, because a lot of times it's very hard. A lot of times they're like, what am I doing? I'm doing this job that I cannot define. It cannot define it. You understand? I'm in my 40s. I cannot define what I'm doing, but I know I should be doing it. And I don't want to get disillusioned by what my brain tells me over what my soul tells me. So every time I get, it's just like running a marathon. So at some point, at a particular distance, people hand them water, or glucose or stuff like that. Every time I go for a while recording, I get tired and someone hands me glucose. Those people are like angels, because God sends them at the right time. And I think that very night, that Sunday, someone sent me something that just told me how impactful and how I shouldn't stop and how it has changed their lives. And God told me, that's what I measure, is the fact that when you touch a surface, they cannot forget you. They cannot wipe you off. It doesn't dry off. It leaves a mark. When you put a base on your skin for long and you wipe, you will see the area. It will corrode that area. It will impact your skin. When you put an acid, it will burn your skin. You would always be able to point to where you came in contact with an acid. But water, it might stay there for a while if it doesn't dry up. But once you wipe it off, you cannot point to the spot anymore. And God encouraged me, said, it doesn't matter whether you're recording a podcast or writing a blog or whatever it is. It's not about how articulate or how unusual it is. It's the impact it has on the surfaces that it touches, the lives that it touches. That's what I measure. That's what I measure. Does it have good impact? God doesn't measure whether it is not bad. He measures whether it has good impact. And so my question is, does your life have good impact? Does your work have good impact? Yes, you're a professional. That is good. That is good that you can articulate. You're an IT professional. You are a doctor. You're an engineer. You're a surveyor, whatever. But then, can people remember you? Or can they easily replace you? A while back, I went to the hospital and I met a doctor, and in Nigeria, doctors are really overworked. That's the truth. There are too many patients assigned to one doctor, so they see way too many people every single day. Some doctors see up to 200 people a day. I don't know how they do it, but that's incredible. But then, so a lot of them, if you are patient number 100, it's not easy for anybody to be patient with you. You understand? You might be patient number 100, but the doctor won't be so patient. So, and this time I went to the hospital and I already gearing up for, somewhat dismissive doctor, not dismissive, but not irritable. You understand? But I saw this elderly man, was elderly. He had all the reason to be tired at this point of the day. But then the way this man attended to me, this was last year. Oh man, no doctor has ever attended to me like that. He attended like I was the only person in the world. The last person in the world. He attended like after attending to me, he would have to retire. So he put all his best into it. And even till today, I still remember that man. I remember having a conversation with my wife and saying, I still remember that doctor. And when I had a follow-up visit, I was looking for him, but he wasn't around that day. And I was like, where can I find this man? Because he so impacted my life. He so cared for me. He made me feel loved just by doing his job. He was so kind, so accommodating, so loving. I felt so good. And I still, whenever I go to the hospital, I look for him. I'm looking for him. You understand? He had an impact on me. He didn't dry up. He burnt through the surface. He was acid. And that's what matters the most. That's what matters the most. Look, if you're doing any job right now, whatever it is you're doing, you're not getting paid well. You're not getting. You don't even get paid at all. You just work you commit yourself to. Pay comes few far in between. It seems very lowly. It doesn't sound as distinguished as other jobs. I'll tell you that ultimately, the ultimate rewarder of that work is not looking at how flamboyant it looks. It looks at those that can never forget you. Never. I remember my mom had someone helping out in the house. When they were getting much older, they used to have people come around to clean up the house. And there was this one lady that was there for a couple of months, but they've never forgotten her. The way she did the work was incredible. Incredible. She was a house help, but then she carried her shoulders high. She cleaned the house like nobody had ever done it before. It was spotless. The house smelled good. And it's not like if you gave her anything that was different from, she worked with the tools she had, but for some reason the house smelled good. And the funny thing is, whenever she came into the house, she just brought a ray of sunshine with her. As in, the house just livened up. Whenever she came, livened up. And I remember she was an older woman. She was in her 40s then, older. And I remember my mom was hesitant whether she could do the work around the house. But she would come and at 6 o'clock she would close and go. Oh, but she was such a light. When she went, it was like we went into some kind of mourning her leaving. You understand? because she got another appointment somewhere else. But then she was acid. And I want to encourage someone here today. You had that job you cannot define. It seems like people would mock it, and people would mock it when you say it. Whatever it is. I write a blog for children. I write a blog for women who are struggling. I record a podcast. I I cook food for stray dogs. No, don't worry about what it sounds like. The articulation, it's the impact. That's what matters, and that's what God rewards. Don't be neutral. You see, so there are two warnings. We get one. Don't be alkaline. Yes, but don't be neutral. Don't be alkaline. Don't be neutral. Don't let people just wipe you off and forget that you were ever there. Leave a scar. Leave a scar. A beautiful scar that people remember they came in contact with you. I hope someone finds encouragement in this today, because I found encouragement in doing what I do, just from remembering what God's view of good work really is.